Hey everyone, this video is using the November 2021 Call Me Crafty SheetLoad of cards template. This is the design of the card. It has 3 pattern papers as part of the design, a sentiment strip, and then it looks like some twine or something of a circular nature as a feature on the card. With the card itself, you actually do create 2 separate pieces as indicated over here and then overlap them. What I've decided to do is instead of do the overlapping of these particular papers, I'm going to mat the pieces of paper directly onto this piece here. So not create the overlay. I feel like I'll get a similar effect, but I won't hide the paper and I'll use less of this grey cardstock here. For my design, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my standard A2 white card bases. These are 5.5 by 4.25. I have some grey backing panels in 5.25 by 4. I've already pre-cut some dark grey 12 by 12 cardstock into 2.25 strips. And then I'm also going to use this My Mind's Eye blush paper pad. I've had this in my stash for quite a while. I'm not sure if it's still available. I will have a look and see if I can find it, and if I can, I will link to it. It has gorgeous paper and it also has foiling on each of these. This has been sitting in my stash for a long period of time and I just have not wanted to chop it up. So today I am going to chop it up and make some cards. I do think with these, I'm going to consider not creating birthday cards. I've created a lot of birthday cards lately, so I might try and create some cards that have a different sentiment on them. 24 sheets of double-sided cardstock paper, and they are cardstock, they're heavier paper, and 12 unique designs. So I'm going to go through these. One side of the paper has foil and the other doesn't. Because I'm not going to do the overlap, I'm going to measure these out more specifically so that I don't overlay on top. I still want the dimensions that we have here. So these papers need to essentially be a little bit smaller. So if this is 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch and the middle part is 3, that means that I have 3.5 already covered. So between the top and the bottom, I need another 2 inches because a standard card base is 5.5. To get the dimensions, I think we have a couple of options, but I really think 1.5 and 1/2 is going to be the best. 1.5, this will be 0.5. And this will be 3. And when I add all of those together, I get 5 inches of pattern paper, and then I get my extra 1/2 from these 2/4 inches on this strip. And so what does that mean? That means from each piece of paper, I'm gonna get, and probably need to be pretty smart about how I cut these up so I get the most out of my pattern paper. So these are all 2. These papers, some of them are a little busier than the others. So I do wonder whether or not I'd be better off cutting some of the papers to 3 by 2, and then I'll get 6 pieces out of each. And then cut some of the pieces to be the top and the bottom out of perhaps some of the simpler papers. I'm gonna do an experiment. All right, so this is a 6 by 6. Actually I could use both sides. If I cut it straight down the middle and then twice, I get 6 pieces. What is the best way to get 2 by 2 and 2 by 3 inch in the same number so that I can create an even amount of cards from a 24 sheet paper pad? 2 by 2 gets me 9 pieces. 3 by 2 gets me 6 pieces. If I have 24 pieces of cardstock, we do 10 of those, so we get 90. And so if we do 14 of those, 84. So if this is 81, I'm gonna end up with 81 and 84, and I have 1 piece left. I immediately know that I need 3 of these for the 2 by 2. And then I've got 6 by 4 remaining. If I do 2 by 3s, I'm gonna have 1 little piece left. So I think I'm gonna get 86 cards. Wow, that's a lot of cards. A lot. Okay, so because I'm being really conservative with my pattern paper, I love this pattern paper, it's gorgeous. I want to make sure it shines. I'm really not keen to hide it behind the panel. By using the grey pattern paper and using this as highlight, I think it's going to stretch it a long way. So I'm going to look through this, and the first pass I'm going to pick my favorite papers. And so most likely it's going to be several of these that are a little bit busier. I really love the flowers. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. And I think there was another pattern paper that had pattern, or maybe, oh yeah, this one. All right, so I love the foiling, but the reality is this does look a bit uninteresting the way I'm planning on using it. So I think I will use that side. And so the question becomes, does it make sense to have a busier pattern and then a plainer pattern? And do you put the busier pattern at the top and the bottom and the plainer in the middle because then you've got a sentiment? Or do you put the busier as a highlight in the middle? So I'm going to need to work that out. I think the other thing as well is which paper would look okay with just a 1/2 inch strip. I mean, 1/2 inch is pretty small. I wonder if 1/2 inch is even what I should be doing. Feels like maybe that should be 3/4 and then 1.25. I think that's better actually. Okay. It doesn't change anything about this. All right, so they're the busier patterns. What other choices will make it? I really love this stripe with the metallic in it. And then I think this is gorgeous. So maybe the idea with this, I often like to mix patterns around as much as kind of practical, but I am also aware that if I'm doing a lot of cards, I can get to the end and I can end up a little bit trapped with how I partner things up together, and then I end up with not a great result for the last few cards. So my preference is that I love every single card that I create, and sometimes that means the patterns that speak to me the most need to really be split up a little bit. I love the stripes. I'm loving these dots. They will need to be split and not on the same card. And then similarly, I probably wouldn't put the dots on the stripes, and then I wouldn't put these spots with these dots. So I really do need to figure out the best way. The other thing as well is with some of these papers, because of the nature of the way we're planning on using it, if I'm cutting 2x3 from something like this, I really need to figure out which way I'm going to get the best result. 2x3 out of this would mean you get some foil at the top and then you get some foil at the bottom. If I line this up with my grid here, I can actually see where the 3-inch cut would land. We'd have navy with the rose gold and the pink, and then it would be cut here at 3 inches. And then for the top part, we're going to see rose gold, cream, and then there will be a little bit of the pink at the bottom. If I was to chop this into 3/4 and 1 1/4 inch, I could end up with some pieces that are all cream. So I think this needs to be one of the 2x3 pattern papers. I'm certainly prefer to pick that over the more plain style at the back. If I find the other one of these, and from my quick math, which gosh, I guess we'll see how good my math is, that means the 3x2s, I need 14 pieces of paper for that. So they're 2x3. Now, in terms of these, I need to do exactly the same analysis of this piece of paper, which is if I was to chop it into smaller than 2x3, what would the pieces look like in the end? If I'm lining this up in the corner here with my grid mat, I can see that a 2x3, actually, how about I block it? So this will be 2x3, it'll be cut here. We have an interesting piece, we have an interesting piece. The middle and the side will be the same. So similar to this paper, I think this with the rose gold is really pretty. And if I cut it as one of the focal points in the middle, I know that I'm gonna get a good piece for each rectangle. And honestly, if I don't, I could flip it and just use the navy, but most of my backing papers are quite dark, so I'd rather use the lighter colors. I have 4 now of my backing papers. Now, some of these are similar, so if I take a look at this one here as well, I might use one side and then the other side, perhaps, of this one. I really just think the charcoal with the navy on top is not going to have a contrast that's going to be helpful. I really do think the top half of this could be really great. So again, if I'm lining this up, so we'd have 3 strips like this. That would be the focal point in the middle of the card, which means I might actually move this lower so that this part can shine. If I cover that too much, then focusing on that 2x3 is probably going to be a mistake. So I think with these, what I'll do is I'll cut the 2x3 out of the top, and then I'll use the reverse side and do 2x3s. Okay. So I now have 6 over here of my 14. Okay, what else have I got inside this paper pad? I've nearly pulled out all of the pieces now. So lots and lots of cream dots. Now the things that are great about this is there are a lot of light colors in this pad. So the fact that I'm using the charcoal backing paper is going to work really well on these. They're really going to contrast really well. Some of the darker blue will not contrast. So as I go, I think it's highly likely that I might change my mind a little bit for some of these darker pieces. I could potentially even switch and do some backing papers with white for those. Maybe I need to be thinking a little bit about that. I'll put my cover aside. I think that's what I should be looking at next. So I have 6 papers that I think really wouldn't do well chopped into the smaller pieces. Put those over here. I think all the rest could be cut to either size. Even this one, which is quite busy, you'd still get, because there's so much pattern, you would still get something pretty that would go at the top or the bottom. These ones also, like there'd be at least some rose gold. This might look a little odd because it's a bigger design. If I'm looking at these and I'm thinking, what do I do about the dark colors? If this, instead of a charcoal or a dark matting layer, which is the charcoal that I was planning on using, so if I had white instead, okay, so this is not perfect. I just grabbed this scrap off my desk. But if I had a white card base with a grey panel, white backing, dark coloured paper versus dark with the dark. I'll play it by ear, but I think I should have some white on hand. This has the busier paper at the top and bottom, and then the check in the middle. So in terms of partnering up the designs, maybe I should be looking at that. I have 6 over here and I need 14. Any other obvious ones that would be great for that panel? I do wonder about the stripe. I feel like these ones would be better in the middle than they would at top and bottom. So I'm just gonna make a decision to put them in here. I'll put them at the bottom, so I won't do those first. I've got 10. And so I need another 4 that are gonna be mainly in the middle. And I wonder, I do think these need to be, because I was cutting 3/4 of an inch from this, or 1 1/4. 1 1/4 works really nicely. For the 3/4, there's gonna be like one distinct row and then bits, and I just think that could look messy. This would look great in the middle. So again, I'm gonna pop that in here. We now have 12, and I did think that there was another pattern under here. I do think that this one cut in tiny strips, not ideal. So I have my 14 that I'm tending to be 2 by 3. For the ones that will be cut smaller, we've got the cream with sparse dots. We've got these 2 ones with dots, and then we have these. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We had 9 that needed to be completely cut to the 2 by 2, and then we had 1 that needed to be chopped into a variety. So it was a bit of a combination. I do think this one will be really good at top and bottom. It's just so well decorated. I think these ones will be chopped significantly with maybe the cream, and then maybe this one is the one that we do as a bit of a combination towards the end. So I'm going to pop that aside. We have a plan that will get 86 cards. I'm going to do this in stages. I am keen to do a bit of practicing with some of the pages first. I think what I'll do is chop up a couple of the pieces for the 2 by 3, and then a couple of the pieces for the 2 by 2. And then I'll start making some cards, especially when I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with this sentiment just yet. If I cut up a few of them to begin with, prep the panels and get the backgrounds ready to go, then at least I'll have something to display. And then once I've done that, I'll make an extended video that shows the process for completing the rest. So I've created my first set of cards using the blush paper pad from My Mind's Eye and the Call Me Crafty sheet load of card template for November 2021. I did adjust it, as I said earlier in the video, and this is what I've ended up with. 6 cards that all use an adjustment to the card template. And I feel like I've been able to really use the pattern papers to highlight the rose gold foiling. And then I've kept things really simple. I've created birthday cards for this 6. And according to my calculations, I can create 86 cards in total. I'm going to create a part 2 where I create the other 80 cards.